Welcome to the Truman Charities podcast, a community of caring. I am Jamie Truman, your host. I'm one of the co-founders of Truman Charities. Our organization has raised over $1 million for several different charities as we share our message of helping others and paying it forward. We plan to continue to educate our audience on the culture of giving. On this podcast, I will interview fellow charity founders, volunteers, sponsors, and other people in the community who will share their stories. You will hear and be inspired by their selflessness and passion for helping others. Welcome to another episode of A Community of Caring. My guest today is Darren Binder. He serves as a Senior Vice President and Chief Legal and Risk Officer, as well as a Corporate Secretary for a health system in Oregon. However, we are not here to talk about his day job. We are here to talk about a fantastic organization that him and his husband, Dave, founded in 2011 called City Dogs and City Kitties Rescue. Hi, Darren. How are you?
Hello, and thanks for having me, Jamie.
Of course. I'm so glad. You are so busy, and I can't believe you were able to take the time to chat with us. I just want everyone to learn about your fantastic organization that you guys created. So for anyone that doesn't know about you and why you and Dave decided to create this wonderful rescue, can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Absolutely. So City Dogs and City Kitties started about 10 years ago. And it actually was just City Dogs Rescue in the beginning. We started City Kitties about 5 years ago, and that was not in the original plan, but it's been doing really, really well. So what happened was Dave and I saw this black lab in Georgia on Facebook. One of our friends had posted, a photo and description. And it was a puppy who he was at a high kill shelter. And I grew up with a black lab, and it was just really eye-opening to me. And I was kind of surprised that he was really like at risk for euthanasia because it just didn't seem real. He would be a perfectly wonderful companion for somebody. So we decided, you know what, let's rescue this dog. And so we got some friends together and we put some money down and figured out how to get transportation and pay the fees and pay vet costs and all that stuff. And we brought him to DC, and his name became Bentley. And we walked Bentley around DC with a Adopt Me vest on. And within like a day or two, somebody approached us who saw us, and she goes, well, I had a dog just like that growing up. And lo and behold, she became our first adopter. And it really dawned on us, like, here we have this wonderful puppy who is seriously at risk of euthanasia. And we brought him to DC and had him adopted in a couple of days to a really good home. So, and I think that was really sort of the dawning of, okay, we can do this. And on top of that, my husband, Dave, owns 2 dog daycares in DC. And he was willing to let us have a space in his daycare without charge for maybe about 3 dogs at a time. So we started off, and I remember filling out all our insurance application, writing, we're going to take 36 dogs a year. That was the plan. And it didn't really work out that way because it just took off. And it took off in a great way. We had a lot of success initially with a whole bunch of volunteers who were really interested in helping that we found, friends and then their friends. And soon, now we're at a point where we've rescued 9,000 dogs and cats in 10 years. So
9,000.
Yeah. So we went from 3 dogs a month to now we rescue about 100 dogs and cats every month.
Oh,
so, yeah. And so this really is one of those stories where, there was nothing like special or unique about us other than obviously Dave had access to a daycare where we used the space, but neither one of us had any experience in rescue. We did have a friend who helped us, who had done some rescue work in the past, but all this was new to us. And I got to tell you, coming from where I grew up in the Northeast, I didn't see many stray animals. It was in Connecticut, it was colder climate, but you didn't really see stray animals. But it really, being in DC, and then there's a lot of communities not too far away from us where there are a lot of stray animals, and they can live outside easier because, it's not as cold. And there's also not the same kind of spay and neutering in every community. So there's a huge need. And I think you'll probably hear from others in rescue that I think the biggest thing in rescue is moving animals from one place where there's too many of them to other places where there may not be many. And if we can just get, the dogs and cats from the locations where there's too many of them to places where there's a need, then we can solve, at least on one end, the overpopulation problem. I mean, it really needs to get solved by spay and neutering. But, if that's not happening, then a lot of animal rescue is just getting the animals to a different location in time. And there's usually, at least on the East Coast, like caravans that go from Florida up to Canada and drop off dogs and cats on the way to all different locations. And, it's the whole, aspect of animal rescue is really, changed a lot. It's grown a lot. In a city like DC, it's very common for folks to think about rescue as opposed to going to a breeder. And I think in the 1970s, this country put down like 20 million animals a year. And from what I understand, if I got my facts right, we're probably around 1 million or so now. So it's great progress, but not enough progress. And so organizations like City Dogs and City Kitties, we kind of step in and do it. And we're predominantly volunteer based. So we have hundreds of volunteers. We have 2.5 staff members, and that's it. So we're really lean as well.
I just want to reiterate what you said, went from 20 million to now 1 million. I mean,
yeah, that's right.
Organizations like what you and Dave are doing are really making an impact. It's a real
and it's true. And it's a lot of it is obviously there's large rescues in all different places, but there's also a lot of smaller rescues, that start off small, that may stay small, that are doing some great work. And we also
Bentleys Situation. So when you heard of Bentley and then you guys were moved to try to do something, was it just based on the fact that it was overcrowded and that's why he was at high risk?
Well, okay. So there were several reasons. He was in a community that didn't have a lot of resources. So I don't think there was it wasn't common for spay and neutering there, or as common. And a lot of these shelters that are in rural locations, they don't get a lot of folks coming each day to see what new animals are there. Mm-hmm. And so he was in a situation, I don't remember the shelter he was in right now, but it could have either been a large place where there's just not enough room, but so many animals come in and out all the time, or it could be a more rural place where there's just not much visibility for the animals. And sometimes they're given 3 days or 5 days, and that's it. And honestly, this is really awful. But one of the shelters that we used to work with in the beginning was gassing their animals too, as opposed to euthanizing them with, in a more humane way. And we were really outraged by that. I mean, we're just absolutely outraged. So we got involved in helping to talk to some of the, trying to put some pressure on some of the city, on not the city council, but the council members in that community. And eventually, I mean, not just because of us, but because there was a growing force of you have to stop this. This is horrible. They eventually got rid of that. And that was in North Carolina. And I think, if I remember correctly, I could be wrong, I believe they banned doing that now in North Carolina, but that wasn't long ago. That was probably like 7-8 years ago. I know I was horrified. I just didn't even expect that. But again, resources are very tight in a lot of these communities, and they don't get funding from the government. And, it's a really sad situation. So that's why when I'm saying it's about moving animals to different locations means everything. So an unwanted stray animal in one location, could be someone's amazing companion, 5 days later, once we, transport them and get vet care and all that kind of stuff.
So how does it work if somebody wants to foster a dog? How does it, what is the process?
Right. So basically, as I said, we have hundreds of volunteers and we completely rely on fosters. We do have the daycare, which we can still use, for a few dogs at a time. And when we started, we were a daycare based rescue in that we were trying to keep, 3 dogs there at a time, which suddenly became 5, which I was sort of in charge of helping to pick the animals. And I was really not good at that job because I couldn't say no. And once the different local rescues got a hold of me, it wasn't that hard to convince. And that was, part of the reason we ended up growing so much, but I'm no longer in that role, which is good. But in terms of fostering, fostering means that we can take another dog or cat. And without a foster, we really can't do it. And that's been one of our biggest challenges right now is I would say post-pandemic, but unfortunately it's still going on. But post-shutdown, it's a little bit hard. It's more than a little. It's harder to get foster families right now. And there was a lot of interest last year in 2019 because of COVID. But once people started going back to normal a little bit, there was less interest in fostering. And so, but to answer your question, we just asked fosters to fill out an application on our website, which is citydogsrescuedc.org. And we just ask them a whole bunch of questions about, themselves and their experience with animals and where they live and do they understand, what they're committing to. And we usually ask them to commit to at least 2 weeks or so because we don't want animals being, shuffled around all the time. But we like it when animals stay with a foster until they're adopted too, because, they get a chance to, develop social skills in a house. And a lot of them have never lived inside too. A lot of them are, have been stray. So for them, especially being in DC, they're not used to the noise that they hear, just a lot of cars going by, especially when we take hounds from the South who are in rural communities. They are just not used to that noise and they get freaked out because they hear all these loud noises. So by fostering, we get to acclimate them to the environment. And we also get to assess them like, would they be good? Do we think they would be good for kids, for a family with kids? Or do we think that they might be better, in a certain type of home where there's only one dog or where there's no cats? So we can help make those assessments. Obviously, there's never a 100% answer, and all we're doing is trying to figure this out. But it does help that way. And also we can start to house train, the dogs, because many of them don't come house trained because again, they were outside or they lived outside and they're not trained. And most of the dogs that we get are young. I mean, we take senior dogs too, and dogs with various medical conditions. But a lot of the dogs that wind up in the shelter are under a year old.
Oh, I had no idea. I didn't know that most of them are younger dogs. Yeah. So do you have any feedback from some of the foster families about their experience?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the most common issue is what we call foster failures, because it's sort of a catch-22 because we need foster families to run the program. But then we find situations where a foster family just gets along so well with the dog or cat that it's really hard to imagine trying to break them up because, they just fit really well into their family structure or whatever. And so that's what we call foster fail when they decide to adopt the dog or cat they're fostering, which can mean that we end up losing a foster if they're no longer able to take another dog or cat. So I think there's, a lot of families are concerned that they may get attached to a dog or cat, but a lot of folks are able to really just understand from the get-go that, this is not going to be their dog or cat. Now we fostered, just tens of dog. I don't know. I can't think of the number now, but just a huge amount of dogs and cats. And there were many that I wanted to adopt along the way. My husband didn't allow that, which is probably a good thing, or we'd have, a bunch more animals than we already did. but it is hard. I mean, I got to tell you, it really, really is hard. I mean, but I followed up with with our alumni who adopted some of these dogs to keep track of them, and we have a very, very active Facebook group for our foster and our alumni, our adopters. And so they can post at any time, updates about their dog, or they can ask questions about what should I do in this situation. And it allows everyone to, get a good place for resources and also to follow up on maybe an animal that they had fostered.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
And are interested in knowing about.
I would have the same kind of problem that you do, which is I would want to keep them all.
Yeah.
I get attached pretty quick to animals. So
it's really easy to do that. And it is a fear. I mean, and listen, our organization is probably more accepting of foster failures than others. Like it all depends upon every different rescue sort of culture. But, we just believe that if a dog or cat found the right home through the foster family, that's fine. Mm-hmm. And we'll risk losing them if we have to, because we don't want to break up something that works well. But there are definitely differences of opinion about that, with other rescues saying, no, we don't allow for fosters to adopt because we can't, do our job that way.
I do have to say that one of my really good girlfriends, she fosters dogs for another organization. And she has told me several times that it's really life-changing, that she absolutely loves it. And she finds so much. She gets very excited to find a forever home for them, so she actually really enjoys helping train and getting them prepared for their forever home. She absolutely loves it. So now for people that are saying, okay, well, fostering maybe isn't what I'm looking for, but I want to be the forever home for one of these dogs or cats. How do they go about that?
Yeah. And let me just tack on one thing, is that with the fostering, it's also for folks who really aren't sure if they could handle having a dog or cat. So it's a great trial period just to see what it's like, see if their schedule can accommodate this, see if they have the time for it. So it's also really helpful if you've never had a pet and, can do it that way. And, sort of as a learning experience. And I will also tell you that during COVID in 2019 and 20, or at least 2020, we probably doubled the number of fosters that we had, because so many people wanted the companionship, but also wanted to invest. They had so much time being at home. They wanted to help out. So we went through so many dogs and cats during that time, which was amazing and not really what we all expected to happen. But now we're sort of kind of looking at the after effects, which is, I said earlier, it's harder to get fosters now because people are trying to get back, to a more normal lifestyle or regular lifestyle. And so, they may want to travel more. So, but obviously with that increase, it just shows that there's so many benefits of fostering that, folks really, really enjoy doing it. So to answer your question about adopting, it's really the same process. You fill out an application, and we have all of our pets on Pet Finder and different, social media sites, and you can see the different dogs and cats that we have available. And if we have an application pending, we normally note that. So that if you're going to apply for a dog or cat, that there's somebody that we're evaluating, because we don't want to get anyone's hopes up, and, sometimes those fall through. But it's just to, try and make it a more organized, and fair process. So what happens is you look on Pet Finder and you say, this is a great dog or cat, or you may be open to several different kinds. And you just fill an application, and then we will follow up, and we will do reference checks, and we will do vet checks, and we will just follow back on any questions that we have. And we do a home visit too. So it's really, and there are a lot of people who complain that, rescues, it's really hard to get a dog from a rescue because, there's so many, potential barriers. And we're trying to work on that. We're trying to look at our processes all the time. But the reason we have so much is that if we'll take back any dog or cat that we adopt. And if we take one back because it doesn't work out, then it means we can't save another dog or cat, right? And so what we're trying to do is find the right match. And we want to see folks who have a commitment, and have shown that, that, they'll be responsible. And it's not, there's no easy answer to it. We're gonna make mistakes. We're not always gonna, find the right folks, but we have a pretty good track record. And that's why there's so many, because all the questions that we ask are based upon things that have probably happened to us at one point or another. So that's why there's, more extensive.
Well, I know that when you were just mentioning about vet checks and a lot of these animals need help and they need care when they first arrive. And so I want to talk about something that's really exciting, which is the capital campaign that you have going on. I want you to tell everybody about it.
Yeah. Okay. So it is super exciting. And thanks for bringing it up. We had space that we leased for a number of years, and we have a lot of equipment like cages and all kinds of stuff that we need, crates, and that we give to fosters. And we got kicked out of our space because the landlord needed to reuse it for something else for themselves. And so we've had a really hard time finding a good space to get, because we have dogs and cats coming in and out. So a lot of landlords don't want that, in their building, even if they're not staying there overnight. They're not, super friendly to that. And it's also really expensive in DC to rent, space. So we've been really operating without having permanent space, and we've been using different places to do our intakes. But there's a lot involved in our intakes. When these dogs and cats come up, we process them. We have all their paperwork. We get them ready for, fostering or adoption. There's a lot to that. And we're doing that without a facility. So we finally decided after 10 years and 9,000 dogs and cats that we really needed a place of our own. We really needed to have a place in the city, in DC, where we started, that could be like a community resource, but also serve as a place where we can know that we can have our intakes every week when we take 25 dogs or cats in. We know we're going to have space where we can store our crates and our other supplies. We'll have somebody there. So if, foster family needs to come and get, some type of, medication or, some type of treatment for their dog or cat, we'd be available. We'll have a solid location. We'd have an adoption room. We'd actually even have a small conference room so we can have trainings and that kind of stuff. So we are super excited about it. And we found a place in Logan Circle, and it needs a lot of work. We have a contract on it, and we set out to raise $600,000, which is mind blowing for us because, we don't have the kind of funding sources that can make that easily, raised. So we started publicly in June, and I got to say, we're really thrilled because we're at about 450,000 right now. So, and that's about 1,200 donors who have donated generously. We have tapped on friends who may no longer be our friends anymore because we tapped on them so much, just supporters, adopters, alumni, anyone who'd listen and say, we really want to have a permanent presence in the city. Can you help us out? And so we've been really lucky with that, but we want to get to the finish line. We have about $150,000 more to go. And, obviously we appreciate any help. We don't get any funding from the government or anything like that. This is purely self-funded. And we also, between our adoption fees and our general fundraising, we have to have about $1 million a year to operate. So that's on top of the $1 million that we get and have to consistently raise for. And the reason why it's so much money is it's not because of staffing or anything like that. It's because we do a lot of medical care for these dogs and cats. And one of the things about our rescue is we've always felt that that was really important to us, that we didn't want to bring a dog or cat here and have them, not be treated for a lot of the conditions that they may have. They may never have seen a vet in their entire lives. So we have really invested a lot in it. And being in the city, everything is expensive. We do get some discounts at local vets, but we spend a lot of money on medical care, probably more so than a lot of other rescues would do or could afford to do. But we constantly are trying to fundraise so we can take care of these animals. So, Yeah, it's a super exciting thing for us. We feel like having the building will put us right in the community where we started, and will just be a great way to interact with the community and have folks join us, volunteer with us, do all, just really be more integrated and have a solid place, to exist.
I think it'll be great. It'll really bring the community together,
Absolutely.
Space for everybody to be able to go to. But I have to say, you're telling me this, and you said you started in June, and I'm just blown away that you guys have been able to raise that much, and you're so close. So how can people help? How can they donate to this campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. You can go to our website, which is citydogsrescuedc.org. And we also have a shorter link, which is cdck.cc/WAH. And WAH stands for We Are Home. And the reason we did that is because one of the things that we've done also in connection with this capital campaign is we worked with a local artist to come up with a poster, or a print, I should say, a limited edition print that we were selling. We still are selling. We're not going to print more than 250 of those. And it's like a vintage style print. And you can see it on our website. It shows a dog and a cat, like just really kind of like dancing of excitement being in DC. And one of the things that we wanted to do in that print, and it's called We Are Home, and you can see it on our website, is we really wanted to show a different side of DC, because, obviously with DC, there's politics, there's, a lot of, disputes and all that kind of stuff, but there's a whole community that lives there that loves the city and loves animals. I mean, it's a really animal friendly city and does a lot. And it doesn't matter what political party you belong to or what you believe in. I mean, we can all get along, at least on this issue. And that's what we're really trying to emphasize, particularly in, been a very difficult last few years politically. So that's something that, we're selling also to raise money for the building, and it's online. They're limited edition. They're $495. And again, I don't know if they'll be worth money someday, but it's a really nice print. It makes me happy every time I see it, because you can just see their reaction. And we're also, another important point I will say is our volunteers and supporters had asked, are we doing something for Betty White? Can we do like a Betty White tribute room? Because everyone is, knows about her advocacy efforts. I mean, she's been amazing. So we're doing that. We are looking to we're trying to raise $20,000 for one of the rooms, and we will call it the Betty White Tribute Room. We'll probably put photos of Betty up there. We just started this maybe a couple of days ago, maybe like 3 or 4 days ago. And we've already raised about $2,000 with about close to 30 donors. So if anyone's interested in actually helping us get to a Betty White tribute room, they can donate directly, through our website. And then you go to the team, which is Betty White, or you can do it directly through cdck.cc/Betty. And I'll get you right to the link. So we're pretty excited about that. I mean, we're very unfortunate about, losing her. But I mean, she's gotten a lot of press for the good work that she has done.
I absolutely love that. And there's a couple of my friends who are obsessed with Betty White. So they will definitely be contributing to that.
That's awesome.
I do want to say, so you have the Betty White fans, but there's no way that people don't know if you live in DC. Ryan Zimmerman and his wife. You got to mention the huge supporters that you guys have that will make all of my sons very excited.
Yeah, no, Ryan and Heather Zimmerman adopted actually 2 dogs from us. They're fantastic. And, they really were interested in rescue. And one of the dogs they adopted, Penny, actually was in the paper because they had just adopted her right before the Nats won the wild card the year that they won the World Series in 2019. And so they were referring to, I think on NBC, as Lucky Penny because, she was bringing a lot of good luck. But I mean, she was a situation actually where she was left abandoned and she was living under like a porch in a house. She was in bad condition. And I mean, now it's sort of like a rags to riches story because she's doing really well. And, it's pretty amazing. And to get their support, they did a video for us to encourage others to give to our capital campaign. And we really appreciate that because, obviously Ryan is Mr. Nats. So he is very well known, and that's very helpful. And you can see the video on our website as well. But that really helps, get us exposure because people might be more willing to listen, if they hear from somebody that they know or admire.
Yeah, that's so true. And I want everybody to know that, your Facebook is wonderful and has all kinds of really cute videos and pictures and all that, but your YouTube channel does too. So I want everybody to check that out too. You guys do have some really cute videos on there that I think will melt everybody's heart. So
you can get to any of them through City Dogs Rescue. Just that's the tag that you use, City Dogs Rescue. Except our website is citydogsrescuedc.org. But I would also say, in addition to our capital campaign, which we really need to get to the finish line in this, we also need fosters. So we really encourage those who are inclined to foster in the DC area. Now, we only really do in the greater DC area. Sometimes we get requests from adopters to adopt out of the area. And that's a hard one for us. And we don't usually adopt outside of our service area. And the reason for that is because we take back any dog or cat that doesn't work out. We found ourselves in situations where we had to go get, a dog or something or a cat from, 4 or 5 states away because something happened, unfortunately. And it was kind of on us to get the animal, which we did do. But it's really much better for us to make sure that, if something doesn't go right or something happens to the adopter, that we're there and that we're in the area. So, but definitely for fostering, it's the greater DC, Baltimore area.
All right. And for anybody that's listening, I know it might be hard to write it down, but check out the show notes. We're going to have all of the social media handles, websites, how you can donate to this wonderful capital campaign, and what you can do if you want to be a foster or adopt. But before I let you go, Darren, I know you absolutely love chatting with you. Could chat with you forever because I'm a big animal lover. Love dogs, loves cats, love them all. And if it were up to me, I'd have 10, but my husband pumped the brakes on that. But is there anything that we haven't covered that you think is important for the listeners to know?
No, I think we covered a lot. I mean, I guess I would just say I think people underestimate what they can really contribute, because sometimes, you feel like, well, what can I do? I'm just one person. Well, I mean, Dave and I were just 2 people, and we didn't really have a guidebook to do this. We had a friend or two who sort of knew the ropes and helped us initially, but we just learned a lot on the way. And this organization runs because of hundreds of volunteers and, and a few, staff members, but for the most part, it's volunteers. So by fostering, by adopting, by donating, any of that stuff makes a difference. I mean, it's amazing. I don't mean to sound this like to be corny or being a cliche, but you really can make a difference to an animal who might get put down. And, some of our shelters, at least historically, have had a very, very high euthanasia rate. One of our shelters that we work with initially, I think it was close to 90%.
90%?
Yeah. And so basically, and we've helped reduce that to almost, to much like, maybe us and other organizations that have helped to get that much, further down. But I mean, people don't realize that in different communities are differently resourced, and it's not the same necessarily how, you may think of what happens to dogs and cats when they go to the shelter. Some shelters are no-kill shelters. There are not that many of them, but there are some. But a lot of them are given 3 to 5 days. And as soon as the next dog or cat comes in, perfectly healthy animals are being put down. And that's why adopting one dog or cat makes a difference for the next dog or cat, because it means we can get them, because we can only take so many, right? So, and believe me, we've pushed ourselves to take as many as we have. Like it would be a lot easier to take fewer. Let's just say that much, because it's a lot of responsibility that we place upon ourselves. And there's so much work that our adoption counselors do, our foster assistants do, all of our different volunteers, those who help on the intake. There's like so many components of the organization that rely on volunteers. So, if you want to help out and you're in the area, please look us up on citydogsrescuedc.org. If you can foster, we'd absolutely love it. If you'd like to adopt, check out our animals. And if you can even just support us on the capital campaign, that would be tremendously helpful too, because you'll make sure that we have a permanent presence in the city.
Well, I know as soon as you open up, I'm going to be looking for that Betty White room. I'm going to be
well, we hope we can do it. We just got to raise $18,000 more.
It's going to happen. I know you guys are, what you've been able to do is amazing. And really how you're bringing the community together is,
Well, we need our Betty White room to go viral so that we can get there. So if folks help spread it on social media, we'd appreciate it.
Yes. I say this all the time. I say, if you really do, you want to help, and it's just share your posts, share all your, everything that you guys are doing to just open up for people that don't know about your organization, just educating other people on it. So then they can follow you and they can help. And then, the community can even get tight.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you so much
Sure.
again for coming on. And I am
Thanks for having me
to see this when it opens. I'm so excited, and I will be spreading the word to as many people as possible. So thanks again, Darren. All right.
Absolutely. Thanks. And we hope to close the next month or two in the house, but on the building, but we need to get the rest of the money to do the road renovation. So our hope would be by the end of the year, if that works, if we can get the funding that we need. So thank you, Jim, for having me.
And of course, thank you to the listeners for tuning in to another episode. And until next time, everyone, bye. If you would like to learn more about our organization, please follow us on Facebook at Truman Charities or Instagram at Jamie_Truman Charities, or check out our website, trumancharities.com. I hope you enjoyed listening and hearing stories of selflessness and caring. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.